The smell of grilled lamb mingles with fresh tortillas and Korean barbecue as hundreds of neighbors gather in the streets for the annual Yazbek Family Festival. Children from every background imaginable run between food trucks while their parents share stories and laughter. Local news crews capture the celebration that's become the highlight of the community calendar. But if you rewind 30 years to this exact same corner, you'd witness a heartbreaking scene. A family of 5 being told by their new neighbors to go back where you came from. The Yazbeks, Samir, Amina, and their 3 young children, had arrived with nothing but hope and an unshakable belief in the American dream. What they found instead was a close-knit community that saw a different as dangerous and outsider as unwelcome. Those cruel words were meant to drive them away. Instead, they became the foundation of something extraordinary. Have you ever been told you don't belong in your own neighborhood? That your presence somehow threatens the fabric of community? If you ever felt unwelcome in a place you call home, this story will shatter everything you believe about the power of persistence and kindness. Because what happened next proves that sometimes the families told to leave are exactly the ones destined to lead. Picture a moving truck pulling up to a modest duplex on Maple Street in 1993. Samir Yazbek steps out, his wife Amina close behind, watching their 3 children, ages 8, 12, and 15, stare wide-eyed at their new American neighborhood. The welcome wagon never came. Instead, whispers follow them everywhere. At the grocery store, there goes the neighborhood. At school pickup, why can't they just assimilate? On their front porch, this used to be such a nice, quiet area. The breaking point came during their second week. 8-year-old Layla ran home, crying from the playground, her school clothes torn. They said we smell weird and we should go back to our own country. She sobbed into her mother's arms. That evening, Samir found spray paint on their garage. Go back where you came from. Amina wanted to leave. Maybe they're right, she whispered that night, exhaustion weighing down her words. Maybe we don't belong here. But Samir had fled war, poverty, and persecution to give his children opportunities. He wasn't about to be driven away by fear disguised as patriotism. We stay, he said firmly, not because it's easy, but because this is where our children's futures live. The next morning, Samir painted over graffiti. When it appeared again, he painted over it again. And again, each act of hatred met with quiet dignity. Each rejection answered with persistence. They think we're the problem, he told Amina as they planned their next move. Let's show them we're the solution. That's when they decided to open the corner store. Comment below if you've ever had to prove you belong somewhere that should have welcomed you. Because what the Yazbeks did next transformed not just their own lives, but an entire community's understanding of what it means to be neighbors. The abandoned corner building had been empty for 2 years when Samir first walked through its dusty interior. Broken windows, water damage. Dreams of former owners scattered like the debris on the floor. But Samir saw something different. Possibility. Yazbek's Market opened on a gray Tuesday morning in October. The hand-painted sign was modest, the shelves half empty, but every item had been carefully chosen. Spices that told stories of distant lands. Produce that connected immigrants to home. Staples that served everyone. The first week was brutal. Customers would enter, see unfamiliar foods, and leave without buying anything. Others made their disdain clear. What is this weird stuff? Do you have any normal food? But Samir and Amina had a strategy. Kill them with kindness. When Mrs. Henderson complained that they didn't stock her favorite brand of coffee, Samir special ordered it and delivered it to her house, free of charge. When teenager Jake Morrison tried to shoplift candy bars, instead of calling the police, Samir offered him an after-school job. Why would you help someone who was stealing from you? Jake's mother asked, bewildered. Because, Samir replied in his careful English, sometimes people take things when they think no one cares enough to give. Slowly, incrementally, hearts began to change. It started with Mrs. Chun, the elderly woman who lived 3 blocks away. She'd been struggling to find ingredients for traditional Chinese dishes since the Asian market closed downtown. Amina noticed her frustration and began stocking items specifically for her. You understand, Mrs. Chin said tearfully during one visit, what it's like to miss the taste of home. Word spread through the community's invisible networks. The Yazbeks weren't just running a store, they were solving problems. They stayed open during the blizzard of '95 when the big chains closed, selling flashlights and batteries at cost. They cashed checks for neighbors without bank accounts, never charging fees. When the Johnson family faced eviction, Samir quietly organized a community fundraiser, never taking credit for the initiative that saved their home. "They're not trying to change us," neighbor Patricia Williams observed to her book club. "They're just trying to help us." 5 years in, Yazbek's Market had become more than a business. It was a gathering place, a resource center, an unofficial embassy for anyone who'd ever felt like an outsider. The revolution was happening one act of kindness at a time. By 1999, something remarkable was happening on Maple Street. The close-knit community that had once excluded outsiders was discovering that their newest members were the most connected of all. It started with small emergencies. When the Martinez family's house caught fire, the Yazbeks were first on scene with blankets, food, and temporary shelter. When elderly Mr. Thompson fell and broke his hip, Amina checked on him daily, bringing homemade soup and handling his grocery shopping without being asked. But their real impact came through connections they facilitated for others. Samir had a gift for matching people with opportunities. When local contractor Bill Roberts needed workers, Samir introduced him to recent immigrants looking for construction jobs. When single mother Jennifer Davis needed childcare, Amina connected her with Mrs. Patel, a retired teacher seeking part-time work. "Samir knows everyone's story," Roberts observed. "He sees possibilities where others see problems." The store evolved into an unofficial community center. Job postings appeared on a bulletin board near the register. Samir translated documents for neighbors navigating bureaucracy. High school students tutored elementary kids in the store's back room after school. During the economic downturn of 2001, when several neighbors lost jobs, the Yazbeks implemented an honor system. Take what you need, pay when you can. No questions asked, no judgment passed. They could have gone bankrupt helping everyone, reflected community organizer David Park. Instead, they created a support network that kept the whole neighborhood afloat. The transformation wasn't just economic, it was cultural. The annual block party, which had been poorly attended and cliquish, became a celebration of diversity after Amina suggested that families share traditional dishes from their heritage. "I'd lived here 15 years and never knew Mrs. O'Brien made incredible Irish soda bread," laughed neighbor Carlos Mendez. Suddenly we weren't just people living near each other. We were actually neighbors. By 2003, the demographics of Maple Street were shifting. Young families actively sought houses in the area, drawn by stories of supportive community culture. Property values rose as the neighborhood's reputation for inclusivity spread. The local newspaper featured them in an article titled "The Heart of Our Community," highlighting how the Yazbeks had transformed not just a corner store, but an entire neighborhood's understanding of belonging. "We never set out to change anyone's mind," Samir told the reporter. "We just wanted to be good neighbors." Turns out, being a good neighbor is contagious. Hit like if you believe kindness is the ultimate superpower, because what their children accomplish next proves that when parents plant seeds of service, the next generation grows forests of opportunity. Growing up between two worlds gave the Yazbek children a unique superpower. They could bridge any gap. Layla, the youngest, who once ran home crying from playground bullies, opened Sweet Fusion Bakery in 2008. Her specialty? Pastries that married Middle Eastern flavors with American classics. Baklava cheesecake, cardamom apple pie, rose water cupcakes that sold out daily. "I wanted to create something that represented who I really am," Layla explained during the bakery's grand opening. "Not Middle Eastern or American, but both." The line wrapped around the block. Former playground bullies now waited eagerly for her weekend specials, never recognizing the girl they'd once tormented. Middle son Omar took a different path. His landscaping company, Roots and Growth, didn't just design gardens. It employed teenagers in the neighborhood, teaching them business skills alongside horticulture. Many of his first employees were kids who'd struggled in school, found belonging nowhere else. "Omar saw potential in my son when everyone else saw problems," grateful mother Sandra Lopez shared. Now Miguel's studying landscape architecture at the State University. But it was eldest son Tarek who orchestrated the family's most ambitious project. After earning his MBA, he convinced his parents to expand Yazbek's market into a full marketplace featuring vendors from every cultural background in their now diverse neighborhood. The grand reopening in 2012 was magical. Korean barbecue shared space with Mexican tamales. Ethiopian coffee competed with Italian espresso. The store that once struggled to stock familiar foods now celebrated the unfamiliar as treasure. This is what America should look like, observed Mayor Patricia Williams, the same woman who'd once whispered about the Yazbeks not assimilating. The marketplace became a destination. Food bloggers drove from neighboring cities to sample the diverse offerings. Cooking classes taught neighbors each other's family recipes. Cultural celebrations filled the calendar year-round. When the annual Yazbek Family Festival launched in 2015, it drew 5,000 visitors in its first year. Local businesses reported their best weekend sales ever. The event that started as a block party had become a regional celebration of multiculturalism. We've created something beautiful, Amina reflected, watching her grandchildren play with neighborhood kids whose grandparents had once told her family to leave. Not despite our differences, but because of them. The economic impact was undeniable. The neighborhood had transformed from declining to thriving. Property values had tripled. New businesses opened monthly. The waiting list for rental properties stretched for months. But the real transformation was social. The community that had once feared diversity now marketed itself as a multicultural haven. The close-knit neighborhood had simply redefined what knit together means. Summer 2023. The 30th anniversary Yazbek Family Festival breaks all records. 10,000 people flood the streets that once echoed with "Go back where you came from." Food trucks from 12 different cultures line the blocks. Live music fills the air in 4 languages. Mayor Johnson presents the family with the key to the city. The Yazbeks didn't just succeed in our community, she announces to thunderous applause. They made our community successful. The irony isn't lost on anyone paying attention. The neighborhood association president who once led complaints about the family now chairs the festival organizing committee. The school principal who failed to protect their children from bullying now showcases the district's multicultural initiatives as a national model. I was wrong, admits Tom Bradley, a neighbor who'd been particularly vocal about wanting the family to leave. I thought they'd change us. They did for the better. Local real estate agents advertise properties as being near the famous Yazbek marketplace. Food Network featured the area in a special about America's most diverse food destinations. Urban planners study the neighborhood as a model for successful integration. But perhaps the sweetest vindication comes during Samir's speech at the festival's closing ceremony. Standing where graffiti once told his family to leave, he addresses a crowd that now can't imagine a community without them. 30 years ago, you told us this wasn't our home, he says, his voice steady and gracious. Thank you for being wrong, because this is everyone's home now. The applause lasts for 5 full minutes. Today, the Yazbek name represents more than business success. It symbolizes the power of responding to hatred with service, exclusion with inclusion, fear with love. Their story proves that belonging isn't something you're granted by others. It's something you create by making others feel like they belong too. What community impact are you avoiding because of fear or rejection? What bridges could you build if you stop waiting for permission to serve? The best revenge against exclusion is inclusion. The strongest response to go back is, let's go forward together. If this story inspired you to see differences as opportunities rather than threats, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next week, we're exploring another incredible